Prime Minister is due to address the House of Commons, and we can go across to him now, where he is expected to address the latest Partygate revelations.
Earlier this morning, this Sunday marks a tragic day in our history. This was one of the darkest days of the Troubles, and that's the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. And I echo his call to learn from the past, to reconcile and build a shared, peaceful and prosperous future. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
I associate my remarks with the Prime Minister on Bloody Sunday. Did the Prime Minister agree to the Chancellor of the Exchequer writing off £4.3 billion of fraud? That's £154 of every household in the country. That went directly into the pockets of fraudsters.
No, of course not, Mr. Speaker. But what I can tell him, we do not support fraudsters or those who steal from the public purse, Mr. Speaker. But what I can tell her is that everybody in this country should be very proud of the huge effort that was made by Lord Agnew and others to secure ventilators and to secure PPE. And at the time, Captain Hindsight and others were calling for us to go faster, Mr. Speaker.
Craig Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My local hospital, the George Eliot, has recently issued all of its staff, helpers and volunteers with a medal in recognition of the work that they've done and continue to do through the COVID pandemic. Would the Prime Minister join me in thanking them all for the incredible work they've done, including the specialist teams such as palliative care, who've had to act as surrogate families for patients whose relatives who've been able to attend because of restrictions? And will he consider following their lead in issuing a National Service Medal for all of our key workers who've done such an outstanding job in keeping our country going through the pandemic?
Prime Minister.
Yes, of course, Mr. Speaker. I thank my honourable friend, and I'm pleased that so many of the volunteers and the staff at George Eliot Hospital have been recognised in the Queen's New Year's honours list. I've seen the medal that they are proposing, and I think it's lovely, Mr. Speaker. And as I've told the House before, we're establishing a UK Commission on COVID commemoration to consider how we can commemorate everything that we've all been through, and the Commission will also consider how we can recognise the courage of frontline workers.
We now come to the Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I join with the Prime Minister in his comments in relation to Bloody Sunday? The Ministerial Code says that ministers who knowingly mislead Parliament will be expected to offer their resignation. Does the Prime Minister believe that applies to him?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, of course, but let me tell the House that I think he's inviting a question about an investigation which, as you know, Mr. Speaker, I can't comment, and which he, as a lawyer, Mr. Speaker, will know that I can't comment on. And what I am focused on is delivering the fastest recovery of any European economy from COVID, the fastest booster rollout, 400,000 more people on the payrolls now than there were before the pandemic began. And we're launching a policy tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. He talks about people being out of work. In my case, that's what I understand why he wants it. We're launching a plan tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, to get 500,000 people off welfare into work. It's a fantastic idea. I hope he supports it.
Keir Starmer.
I think the Prime Minister said yes, he agrees the code does apply to him. Yes. And therefore, if he misled Parliament, he must resign. Yes. On the 1st of December, the Prime Minister told this House, in relation to parties during lockdown, all guidance was followed completely in number 10 from that dispatch box. Yeah. On the 8th of December, looks quizzical, he said it. On the 8th of December, the Prime Minister told this House, I have been repeatedly assured since these allegations emerged there was no party. So since he acknowledges the Ministerial Code applies to him, will he now resign?
No, Mr. Speaker. But, you know, asks about COVID restrictions, let me just remind the House, and indeed remind the country, that he has been relentlessly opportunistic throughout. He has flip-flopped from one side to the other. He would have kept us in lockdown in the summer, Mr. Speaker. He would have taken us back into lockdown at Christmas, Mr. Speaker, and it's precisely because we didn't listen to Captain Hindsight that we have the fastest growing economy in the G7, Mr. Speaker, and we have got all the big calls right.
The guy that said in hindsight he now appreciates it was a party. We've discovered the real Captain Hindsight, haven't we, Mr. Speaker?
Wearing a party hat.
Let me spell out. They shout now. They're going to have to go out and defend some of this nonsense. Let me spell out the significance of yesterday's developments. Sue Gray matter to the police, having found evidence of behaviour that's potentially a criminal offence. Prime Minister, if you do not understand the significance of what happened yesterday, then I really do despair. Because the police, Prime Minister, the police having got that material from Sue Gray, subject it to a test to decide whether to investigate. And that test was whether it was the most serious and flagrant type of breach in the rules. The police spelt out that what they meant by that those involved knew or ought to have known what they were doing was an offence, and that there was little ambiguity about the absence of any reasonable defence. Does the Prime Minister...
This question will continue, and I will hear the question. Unfortunately, you might not believe this, but our constituents are very interested in both the questions and the answers. If some members do not wish to hear it, please leave quietly. Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, having got the material from Sue Gray, the police had to take a decision as to whether what they had before them was the most serious and flagrant types of breach of the rules. If members want to laugh at that, laugh. The police spelt out what they meant. They decided on the material they've already got that those involved knew or ought to have known what they were doing was an offence, and that there was little ambiguity around the absence of any reasonable defence. Does the Prime Minister really not understand the damage his behaviour is doing to our country?
Mr. Speaker, I hope that the right honourable gentleman understands that although the issue that he raises is important, there is simply no way, as he knows, as a lawyer, that I can comment on the investigation that he is currently taking place. But what he also knows, he talks about the most serious issue. He talks about the most serious issue before the public today and before the world today. It's almost as though he was in ignorance of the fact, Mr. Speaker, that we have a crisis on the borders of Ukraine, and I can tell him what is going on in the cabinet room of this country is that the UK government, no, Mr. Speaker, the UK government is bringing the West together so that we have, led by this government and this Prime Minister and our Foreign Secretary and Defence Secretary, to bring the West together to have the toughest possible package of sanctions to deter President Putin from what I think would be a reckless and a catastrophic invasion. That is what this government is doing. We're getting on with the job, and I think he needs to raise his game, frankly.
Can I just say honestly, can I just say to both sides, our constituent watching it, tensions are running high, and what we need to be able to do is allow the people out there who are bothered about their futures to hear what is said on both sides. So please, let's give the respect our constituents deserve. Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, this was the Prime Minister who went into hiding for 5 days because of these allegations. Talk to me about being around for the allegations. Mr. Speaker,
Can I just say I don't want to do this, but I am determined to make sure our constituents can hear. The next person that stops me hearing will not be continuing in this debate. Questions?
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's continual defence is wait for the Sue Gray report. On the 8th of December, he told this House, I will place a copy of the report in the library of the House of Commons. His spokesperson has repeatedly stated that means the full report, not parts of the report, not a summary of the report, not an edited copy. So can the Prime Minister confirm that he will publish the full Sue Gray report as he receives it?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what I can tell him is that we've got to leave the report to the independent investigator, as he knows. And of course, when I receive it, I will do exactly what I said. But I can tell him that in the meantime, I think what the people of this country want to hear is what we're doing to tackle the issues that matter to all of us, fixing the cost of living, Mr. Speaker, helping people across the country. By lifting the living wage, Mr. Speaker, by helping people with their fuel costs, Mr. Speaker, as this government is, and by cutting the tax of people on universal credit, cutting the tax by £1,000. And, Mr. Speaker, that party opposite are committed to abolishing universal credit. That's their policy.
Keir Starmer.
Cutting the tax. The police say the evidence meets the test. Frankly, the public have made up their minds. They know he's not fit for the job, and that's what really matters here. Throughout this scandal, the Tories have done immense damage to public trust. When the leader of the Scottish Conservatives said the Prime Minister should resign, the leader of the House called him a lightweight. English Conservatives publicly undermining the Union by treating Scotland with utter disdain. How much damage are the Prime Minister and his Cabinet prepared to do to save his skin?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think that he was offering a yet more general criticism of what's been going on in Downing Street. Let me just remind the House of what's been going on in Downing Street. We've been prioritising the COVID backlogs, Mr. Speaker, investing massively in 9 million more scans so that people get the treatment that they need and that they've been waiting for, and making sure that we have 44,000 more people in our... Yes, it says it's rubbish. They didn't vote for it, Mr. Speaker. They don't support it. 44,000 more people in our NHS now than there were in 2020, Mr. And we're fixing social care, Mr. Speaker, which governments have neglected for decades, and Labour did absolutely nothing. They have no plan at all to fix the NHS or to fix social care. Vote Labour, wait longer.
Keir Starmer.
The reality is that we now have the shameful spectacle of a Prime Minister of the United Kingdom being subject to a police investigation. Unable to lead the country, incapable of doing the right thing, and every day his Cabinet fail to speak out, they become more and more complicit. And what's utterly damning, despite the huff and puff, is that this is all happening when petrol prices, the weekly shop and energy bills are going through the roof. 3 months ago, Labour suggested cutting VAT from energy bills. Still, the government has failed to act. Instead of getting on with their jobs, they're wheeled out to save his. Whatever he says in his statement later today or tomorrow won't change the facts. Isn't this a Prime Minister and a government that have shown nothing but contempt for the decency, honesty and respect that define this country?
Prime Minister.
No, Mr. Speaker, we love this country and we're doing everything in our power to help this country. And of course he wants me out of the way, Mr. Speaker. Of course he wants me out of the way. He does. And I can't, and many people, of course, I don't deny it, for all sorts of reasons. Many people may want me out of the way, but I tell you the reason he wants me out of the way is because he knows that this government can be trusted to deliver. And we did. And we delivered on Brexit, Mr. Speaker. He voted 48 times. He voted 48 times to take this country back into the European Union. We delivered. He He can't be tried. We deliver the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, Mr. Speaker, and we will deliver on our plan to unite and level up across the whole of the UK. Crime down 10%, Mr. Speaker. Job vacancies at a record high. Colossal investment in... Yes, Mr. Speaker, we're delivering and they have no plan. 3 times as much tech investment as France in this country, twice as much as Germany. We have a vision for this country as the most prosperous and successful economy in Europe because we are going to unite and level up. The problem with the Labour Party today, Mr. Speaker, is that he's a lawyer, not a leader. That's the truth. That's the truth, Mr. Speaker. We've taken the tough decisions.
I can't hear what the Prime Minister's got to say. No. I would have thought he's the Prime Minister of this side of the House. I'm surprised that this side of the House doesn't want to listen to it, because I do. Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I only wanted to add the point that we've taken the tough decisions, we've got the big calls right, and in particular I, am getting on with the job.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Clwyd South, the Welsh Government has been dragging its feet on urgent repairs to the Newbridge Road, while in contrast, the Prime Minister and his government have delivered record Levelling Up Fund investment of £13.3 million along the Dee Valley, from the Trevor Basin to Llangollen and Chirk and on to Corwin. Will the Prime Minister comment on how the next phase of the Levelling Up Fund will bring hope and prosperity to other communities right across our proud union of the United Kingdom?
Prime Minister.
I thank my honourable friend very much, and what pleasure it gives me to address the member for Clwyd South, where I tried unsuccessfully so many years ago, and I'm delighted that...
You were just listening to the British Prime Minister taking questions at the House of Commons.